60 million down the drain. You can stop that chant there now, can't you?
I mean, we'll never hear it again, will we?
We'll never hear it again, will we?
No, I mean, being said so ironically as well, like being sung by Arsenal fans, on it, time and time again.
Oh dear,
they're out. Ironically.
They're out, Rory Jennings, of the Cup, Arsenal.
They're out of 2 cups. They're out of 2 cups in 4 days because of Kai Havertz.
Not yet.
I know you're saying because you're a Newcastle. Sorry, for a moment there, I was struggling to understand why you weren't just acknowledging the truth, and it's because you're a Newcastle fan, you're being a bit superstitious. But the reality is, they're out of 2 cups in the space of 4 days, all thanks to one man.
All thanks to Kai Havertz?
Yeah, genuinely.
Not
Kai
mistakes from Arteta?
The header against Newcastle.
The shoulder.
The shoulder against Newcastle, and then the 2 open goals, the dive for the penalty. Like, I genuinely believe, you know, that Kai Havertz performance, the one at the Emirates against Manchester United. I feel like it's one of those performances that will live long in the memory. It almost becomes historic. You know, one of those performances that becomes a little bit legendary in its own right, like a parable. It's like almost a stuff of legend because it was so bad. If you think, you know, when you think of like bad performances, you know about Jonathan Woodgate at the Bernabeu, for example. Like it remains legendary.
Worst debut ever, yeah.
Kai Havertz, he missed sitter after sitter, including an open goal. He dived, so he cheated his way into a penalty. He then missed the decisive penalty in the shootout. It's literally like the stuff of legend.
He was never going to score that penalty, was he?
It was written in the stars that he would miss.
No, absolutely. Let's bring in talkSPORT 2's resident Arsenal fan and star of the final whistle on a Saturday as well. A man who looks lost. Luke Henry.
He's defeated, isn't he?
He's defeated.
It's not only in his team, it's in his sort of personality. Luke's great around the office. He's usually got a spring in his step, great company. He's a sad man today.
There's a sadness to him. Luke, how you doing, mate? You okay?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you, guys. How are you? All right?
We're all right, mate. We're worried about you.
Yeah, well,
you can hear the tears.
Yeah, well.
And the sadness. I mean, Luke, what's going on with Arsenal there? I mean, do you agree with Rory that you know, the sole reason for those 2 losses is Kai Havertz himself?
No, I don't think the sole reason at all is Kai Havertz. I think you're forgetting Martinelli having a big chance. I think you're forgetting, you know, Timber having a big chance, Saliba having a big chance. You're talking about
defenders, Luke.
I'm talking about chances that we had from set pieces that everyone seems to make a gimmick about us, and, you know, we didn't put the ball in the back of the net. I'm not going to literally pinpoint this whole last 4 days on Kai Havertz because that's lazy. I'd like to focus on the bigger problems on the team and the football pitch that have
Which
sprung.
Which are what?
You know, a lot of Arsenal fans will probably say it, but I'll say it is. You have to really look at the summer window to understand what really went wrong. And, you know, you look at Kai Havertz for an example. Kai Havertz was brought in as a left 8. I know he wasn't brought in this summer window, but the previous summer window. And Arteta is a very good coach, and you can see that he's obviously a brilliant coach, and he's coached the team to get to the levels that they have been. But Kai Havertz was a multifunctional 9 in a system that was working really well. If you want to go back and look at the dual 10 system where we had Jorginho and Rice, Havertz and Odegaard, and Saka and Martinelli, it worked. And in the run-in, when Havertz has got 6 goals and 3 assists, and his all-round play was very impressive, he had the freedom to drop deep, to roam about, and to be a nuisance for opposition defenders, but he was very, very influential for us. However, all Arsenal fans will still say he wasn't the clinical number 9 in terms of mindset, and we saw that evidently on Tuesday night against Newcastle when you put Kai Havertz as a number 9 and Alexander Isak as a number 9, and you look at the difference. And this is not a criticism of Kai Havertz, because Kai Havertz is a very important part for Arsenal. But what we're doing right now is we are exposing his weaknesses more than rather showing off his strengths. And this is why I said to you yesterday, could you imagine, I know it's hard to do it in the emotion of it, and I understand, and he should have scored, and I'm not saying he shouldn't, and he's not exempt for criticism, but he was probably our most threatening attack in the box, apart from Sterling, who had about 10-15
Yeah, but he missed the chances.
My point is, I'm not knocking that, and he had to score, but what I'm saying is, could you imagine if we didn't have Kai Havertz on the pitch? The lack of presence we wouldn't have had in the front line would have been non-existent.
No, but you'd have had someone else there instead of him who would have had a more ruthless...
What, Gabriel Jesus? Was he going to muster against a back 3? Was he really? Kai Havertz caused a lot of issues and a lot of havoc and a lot of problems. Now, I'm not saying you buy 65 million for it, and I'm not saying it, but this conversation is not about Kai Havertz. This conversation is far different. If we want to have a conversation...
I want to go back to that point, actually, though, because you're saying that it's, you know, Kai Havertz wasn't bought in that position, but that shows off, you know, the issues with the way that Arsenal have bought. I mean, they've neglected signing what has been such an obvious issue for so long.
For sure.
So I know that you're trying to say that you can't blame Havertz for it. Maybe you can't, but it does still show off where Arsenal have gone wrong.
It's really kind as well. He missed an open goal.
Yeah,
It's missing big chance. But you're looking at the chance at the end. I'm not being funny. I'm not again defending him, but the referee had given a foul anyway. So this argument is none. The one way
He missed two legitimate sitters during the game.
One legitimate sitter. The other one was a foul. The referee had given it.
No, but there was more. Look, this is like minutiae of it. Kai Havertz had an absolute mare, and I appreciate that you're always going to be loyal to your team.
But where's your criticism about Martin Odegaard? Where's your criticism about Gabriel Martinelli? Where's your criticism about?
But it's cumulative with Havertz. That's why. It's cumulative. Look, we can talk about Odegaard, but that's just deflecting because the headline is Havertz.
So the headline, right? So the headline after yesterday's FA Cup game, and this is why I get sick and tired of this. So the headline after yesterday's FA Cup game was all about Kai Havertz.
Yeah, he missed a decisive penalty. It's always going to be that way.
And missed,
not about the fact
chances.
that Arsenal went down to 10 men for 65 minutes and couldn't break them down and had a lot of control. And in the last two games, we've had 49 shots and scored one goal.
You did break them down, and then you missed the chances after you'd broken them down. You had way more chances than them. You were a better team.
Well, of course we're a better team. We're so far into the project compared to Manchester United. My problem is what the performance I saw about that isn't good enough. Manchester United deserved to come away from them. Manchester United did not deserve to lose that game, and they got what they deserved. I'm talking about this is a football. This isn't about personnel problems. I'm sick and tired. I've heard this before, and it's the same thing I keep going on about. Do Arsenal seriously want to win? And I mean that from the bottom of my heart, really, truly, and honestly, because I'm just sick and tired of hearing the same questions, the same rhetoric, season in, season out. I've heard it before and I keep hearing it. Back in 2014-15, it was the same thing. If we had an Aubameyang at that moment in time, when we had Sanchez then, if we had this player at that time in 2008, if we had a defender then, we had a player then, we can go back, and every time over the last years, I've always heard about Arsenal have always been one or two players short. But the thing is, Arteta's come in, he's done a brilliant job for 2.5 years, he's built this project, it's got toe-to-toe with Manchester City, and now we're in a moment where in the summer window, lots of Arsenal fans said we needed attacking reinforcements on top of what we already had. That was before we let the likes of Reece Nelson go, before we even signed Sterling, before we got rid of Emile Smith-Rowe and Fabio Vieira, if you want to class them as forwards. I know they're attacking midfielders, but I'm talking about strictly forwards. We knew then, and they haven't addressed that. For whatever reason, and I refuse to believe that...
they've signed Mikel Merino and Calafiori.
But then there's an issue with that as well, is because, Mikel Arteta wanted them, so they were his first choices. Now, I'm not saying Mikel Arteta is due from any criticism here.
Actually, let me ask you about that then. You mentioned the project, with Mikel Arteta. Where do you see it then at the moment? Is it a case of him taking you as far as you think he can take you? You say there that they don't have an instinct to go on and win things. And that clearly includes trophies because they've won one FA Cup under him. And at the moment, it's including the league. They're not really in the title race, are they? Let's be honest. They're not really in it.
No.
But that's a conversation that the board would have. As an Arsenal fan, and as a fan right now, I would think, we are in a title race, and we still should be in the title race. I know the table doesn't look great on reflection, but my point about, the summer window and Calafiori and Merino, obviously we know now Edu left. Now there was reports are saying that there was reservations about the signings of Calafiori and Mikel Merino. So was Arteta really pushed? Because did Arteta get his own way? And yeah, you could say rightly so. But when you look at it now, 12 games Calafiori's is played out of 31. I think Marino's played the same. Neto's the keeper. The situation has been a nightmare, and Raheem Sterling has barely played any minutes. And that was the summer window to take you over the line, to really, really push. And we always said when Manchester City aren't in the running, or are they going to drop off eventually? That might happen. Who's going to be the team? And this is the thing. I've heard a lot about this. Arsenal will win the league. I think we've seen enough now over the last couple of years that Arsenal will win the league. They are a good enough team. They're too good. This is what I've heard, not from Arsenal fans. I've just heard, within the media, the way we speak.
That's because of the trajectory. That's because they were moving in the right direction. That's because they accrued 89 points last year. And if they keep moving in the right direction, they're going to win the league.
Yeah, but we're not now.
We've
stagnated. But this is the thing, and this is what worries me. I'm tired because I've seen this before. I've seen good teams that Arsenal have had been in title races, but when real push comes to shove, they haven't won it. And I don't want to be that team that has a good team. I've said this before on air and whatever, but these group of players have been brilliant. But you know what? The group of players in 2007-8 were brilliant. The group we had in 2015 were very good. They didn't win anything, and I'm just now tired of the same old rhetoric coming out. If these
Rory, can I just very quickly? Can I just ask you something as well about the fact that you said that I'm not saying it yet. You said they're basically out of the domestic cups. How damaging is that to Arteta? Do you think?
Huge. Arsenal have won the League Cup twice in their history.
You absolutely needed to win a trophy this season.
I think every club the size of Arsenal needs to win Silverware. I don't understand how people... I understand how you prioritise Silverware, but what I don't understand is how you sneer at Silverware.
But like a fifth place... Imagine if they
Arsenal finish in the Champions
League, they finish fifth and they win the League Cup. Is that a good season?
Well, if Arsenal qualify for the Champions League and add Silverware to it, it's a better season than last year. In my opinion, finishing second, third or fourth is all completely interchangeable. What you can separate that with is Silverware. And I think domestic Silverware is important. I don't think it should be sneered at. And it especially shouldn't be sneered at by Arsenal when I'm talking about the League Cup here, because they haven't got a particularly proud record in it. They're a glorious side in the FA Cup. They have a very proud record in league titles. But they have underachieved in the League Cup. I think they've won it since they beat Sheffield Wednesday. And what, 93?
This is right.
You know, it's not that's not good enough. So I do think that the domestic... I think that if they go to St James's Park, I don't believe this will happen, but I do believe that if they were to go to St James's Park, do something fairly incredible, which would be to overturn a 2-goal lead, which means they're going to score 3 goals on the night at least. I think that'd be huge. I really do. I think that'd be huge. It would almost be a springboard and a bit of a statement from Mikel Arteta. I don't think they can do that, but I think that they have an opportunity in that competition where they could do something that would catch everyone's eye, shock a few people, and make a statement.
Do you
I
place
I completely agree. You used the word there, the springboard, and this is why context is quite important, because Rory's right. You can prioritise trophies in what you think. Now, for example, the Carabao Cup, we're not in a position where, well, right now, as it stands right now, it could be looking to save our season. But, you know, if we go last week before we were playing, we were looking at this Carabao Cup as a springboard for further success, and this group of players needs to win a trophy so they understand what it's like to actually win. Obviously, Arteta's last FA Cup win was in 2020, and that was obviously before we actually spent a little bit of money. So I completely agree with that point, but you know, and this is the thing, because I was at the game against Newcastle and I came out of the stadium and I heard a lot of fans will say, but you were by far the better team, but I heard a lot of fans saying, well, we're not going to get through. But then I was like, well, hang on a minute. What's the reasoning behind that? Oh, we're not good enough to go to St James's Park and overturn a 2-goal lead. Well, then if you're not good enough to overturn a 2-goal lead against St James's Park, you can't be a good enough team to win the Premier League. And I refuse to believe that, well, this is me alone, I refuse to believe that it's just solely one player. Like, I'm being generally serious, like, we're not going to get Alexander Isak, but let's use him as a prime example in January. Is Alexander Isak really the difference between Arsenal somehow going to Newcastle to overturn a 2-goal lead and going to win the Premier League?
I think it is. Do you agree with this statement? I honestly believe that if, you know, in the first leg, I watched that game, you were both at the game, I watched it in full. If you swap centre forwards, you swap scoreline. If Alexander Isak was playing for Arsenal and Kai Havertz was playing for Newcastle don't score a goal and Arsenal score 2. So that means one player is actually enough to flip an entire tie.
So Jen, you agree? So you both agree that? Agree? Well,
Newcastle were brilliant in that game.
No, they were brilliant. But
I think if you swap, good.
But the question is, if you guys, because you're not Arsenal fans, do you believe that Arsenal are just that player, like just one player away from winning the Premier League or going far in the Champions League?
I don't think they're far off,
Because if you do, and if you can see it, then the owners need to see
it.
But
the problem is now it's more than one because of Saka's injury.
And Gabriel Jesus.
Because of Saka's injury. But it was one at the beginning of the season.
And now this is why, and I'm hearing reports that the Cronkies will have to go into the market. Well, of course they have to go into the market. Should have only gone to the market in the summer. And this is what I'm worried about. I don't want to go into the Cronky ownership because it will take too long. But basically, long story short, these Cronky owners from the 2010s to the 2020s have spent what? £15 million, barely put any money of their own into the football club until the lockdown, until this came about. Like I said, Arteta's picked the club off the ground and got them playing again. Now Arsenal fans have a little bit of hope, a little bit of expectation, and they're thinking like they can go and win something. It's up to the Cronkies to actually go and back Arteta with an attacker that can get them over the line. Because if you can see it and you think it's still possible, right now we need 2. So that's up to them because they weren't proactive, and then they have to be reactive. So it's up to them. So if they're serious about ambition, this is an ownership that have won stuff in America. We're the only thing they own that hasn't won anything. So it's up to them. I'm empty. I just want to win. Grow up about Arsenal, about DNAs and trophies and what have you. But the horrible truth is, as a 26-year-old Arsenal fan, unfortunately, this is the Arsenal that I know. Not the best team in the world and winning doubles or winning invincibles. This is the Arsenal fan. This is
so sad, Luke.
Well, it is the team that always
sad.
gets.
But you know, in a way, Luke. In a way, though. Do you know what's quite interesting? And I know we're about to break, but what's quite interesting is, despite that, Luke, what you're actually doing is you're you're the self-fulfilling prophecy. You're actually adding to it. By making excuses for Kai Havertz.
No, but I'm not.
Do you know, the Arsenal is a bottling Arsenal team, and the bottling player is being defended by you.
Up of Nicolas Chauvet.
Mate, an Arsenal fan of my generation who has watched Dennis Bergkamp, Thierry Henry, Robin van Persie goes, no, the standards are so high. Kai Havertz should be nowhere near the team.
Yeah.
No, but I'm not saying that Kai Havertz is the leading number 9. What I'm saying is you buy the striker and he starts on the bench. He can still be a part of this team. But this conversation isn't about the personnel. This conversation was about the football club and the institution and what they want to be. Like you said, the Arsenal that you watched is completely different to the Arsenal I watched.
Oh, anyway, Luke, as you said, you're empty there. Go and make yourself a cup of tea, mate. Go on. Bring your light to the office as you usually do.